Welcome back. In this week's episode, we discuss Pfizer releasing the 55,000-page document on the COVID-19 vaccine trials, Ketanji Brown Jackson not knowing what a woman is, and Jeremy's razors cutting the economy in half. I'm Luke.
And I'm Rhodey.
And this is the Right Side of the Compass podcast. All right, so Rhodey, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty chill. I didn't really do anything, so that's really it.
Oh, I love doing nothing. That must be great. I had guests over and my bathroom flooded, so very exciting. Very exciting. I'm not catching a break here. Not catching a break here.
Yeah, no, it was indoor pool party.
Ugh, God, I don't want to think about that. That's sewer water. By the way, I just want to point out that I loved that line with Jeremy's razors. Brilliant line.
What?
Cutting the economy in half.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so proud of myself. I'm gonna pat myself on the back right now. Pat myself on the back.
I can't do it for you.
No, you can't, unfortunately. All right, so let's. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. We want to bring more exciting content for you, dear listener, but in order to do that, we need your help. Smash that like button, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. In addition, hit the notification bell to be updated when we release the next episode. We are also on all of your favorite podcast platforms. You can reach us by DMing us at the Right Side of the Compass or by commenting on the video. We worked very hard on this episode, so we hope you enjoy. Anyways, so the first topic for today is the Pfizer documents and scientism. So I sent you a video by Russell Brand, of all people. And the Lotus Eaters did a great video on Russell Brand kind of evolving into this very based character. And
yeah, I've also noticed that.
Yeah, well, in any case, you should see that video. I recommend that video wholeheartedly. They do a lot of good work over at Lotus Eaters. But I'm not here to talk about Russell Brand. I want to talk about the Pfizer documents and something that Russell Brand said, which I guess kind of spoke to me. But let's go over the facts first. So, Rhodey, you just watched the video. So why don't you fill us in on what happened, what he said?
Yeah, I mean, basically what happened is they want to release their document now about information about the vaccine, and I guess it wasn't public knowledge about exactly what was in it. A lot of it was, I guess, either partial or speculation, but they want to release all the data, which is a lot. And so then the FDA wants to postpone it for another 75 years, which would be like 3 generations, and literally everyone like who went through this would be dead.
Well, you know how it is, right? If we're all dead, we can't get upset.
Of course, and also it'd be 75 years later. It's like, who cares at that point? It'd be like if they released, hypothetically, if they had a vaccine for the Spanish flu, okay, and they release the document now. It's like, who cares?
No, you know what it is? They know that if we read it while we're alive, we might vote differently.
Yeah.
But if we read it after we're dead, we won't stop voting Democrat.
Yeah, no, it's all it's all a, I wouldn't say a game, but it's all I don't know, about, control, essentially.
Right. So I believe Russell Brand, I watched the video at the beginning of the week, and I didn't watch it later in the week. Admittedly, that's kind of on me. But at the same time, Russell Brand asked a very important question, which is kind of one of the linchpins of my philosophy. And he asks essentially, I don't know if this was his exact wording, and you can correct me if he didn't actually say this, but Russell Brand essentially asks, why is it that we're not being trusted with this information when this is the type of information that allows us to make educated decisions?
Because they want to control the narrative.
Right, but so that's kind of like what I guess my point is with all this. This is the difference between science and scientism, right? Science is the idea that, you have a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis with an experiment, and then when you publish the results of your experiment, and you allow other people to kind of tear your experiment apart. Science doesn't like to say things that are, it likes to disprove things. And the harder it is to disprove something, that's kind of the more sound that idea is, right?
So when something is a theory, wait, so you're saying, okay, so you're saying it disproves things. So like a theory.
Yeah, that's why they call them theories, because they're not like, you're not supposed to be so, I guess, haughty or sure of yourself that it can never be disproven. I think like Newtonian physics were disproven at some point, and we only use them to help us understand how physics in the real world work. But in terms of how physics actually work, there's like quantum physics is actually the correct way to do it.
I mean,
And I
yeah, I
don't know
mean,
anything. I'm not a scientist, although
look at Einstein. People didn't believe him for decades. That of his theory of relativity and other things. They thought that light traveled through a thing called the ether. Like it's
well, yeah, but that's kind of, do they think there's, how do I even say this? Essentially, these are the same people that when Galileo Galilei went to the Catholic Church and said, no, the earth revolves around the sun, they would have been like, but don't you know the science says that the sun revolves around? Don't you know what the science says? Come on, Rhodey, come on, Galileo, don't you know that the science says the sun revolves around the earth? Come on, man.
come
And the
on.
Come on, man. This is one of the things that differentiates science from scientism, because science is the idea that you could challenge these ideas, right? It's the idea that, like, show your work. Like, I want to see how you know this stuff. But scientism is the belief that there are these guys in lab coats, and they are the gatekeepers of truth and knowledge. And when a guy in a lab coat says something, you have to believe him no matter what. He's unfalsifiable. You can't disagree with the man in the white lab coat. That is
Right.
scientism. And it seems that our leaders are worshiping at the altar of scientism, of secular liberalism, of the I guess you might say the liberal economic order. And this is part of it. You trust the man in the white lab coat, right?
Yeah, and degrees. Also.
Exactly. I remember at the very beginning of this show, like I think episode 1 actually. Episode 1, you said, like, we were talking about Jeanette Yellen, or Janet Yellen, and
Yeah.
you were saying, oh, she must be smart. She graduated from this college. And I said, well, that's just a piece of paper. That doesn't mean she's more educated. And even if she is, that doesn't mean she has the same desire that you have of, because she's much richer than you know? But regardless, the point still stands that just because a person has a lab coat on doesn't mean they're, wiser than you are when it comes to science. And just because, this goes in all areas of your life, right? I don't know about other religions, but I know Judaism. If you know the right answer, I think, me personally, I don't like when, let me put it this way. In my personal opinion, I believe in rabbis showing their work. If rabbis come to a certain conclusion in Jewish law, I'm willing to hear it out, but you got to show your work, man. And if they're not showing their work, I'm going to be much less likely to believe them than someone who does.
Yeah, no. But going back to what you said before, there is some, they did study it and they are working in it. So there is some form of knowledge there that you don't have
Oh, I
at the same
agree.
time.
Oh, I agree, definitely. That's why when I'm not going to, just to kind of compare this to Judaism, because that's kind of what I understand, that's what I know. And when I say I know, what I mean is that I've grown up in the system for 26 years, so I'm familiar with it. Um, I don't mean to say that I'm fully aware of everything, all the sources, right? Rabbis, for example, they have knowledge to all this. They, in theory, have access to all the sources. They're supposed to know how to read them. They're supposed to know how to understand them. They're supposed to have the requisite historical background to understand the sources, and they're supposed to be able to even know where to look, right? Because if I wanted to, this is the reason why I don't make my own halachic decisions. Because if I knew, enough to go back in time and like kind of compare and contrast sources, I wouldn't need to approach a rabbi. I wouldn't ever ask a rabbi a question. I go to a rabbi in the hopes that he knows these sources, and he's going to make a decision. But I will always respect a rabbi more if he says, well, this is the beginning of this is where this idea comes from. This is what the rabbis, this is what, people have said throughout the centuries about this issue. And this is what we do nowadays. And this is why we do what we do nowadays. Whereas if someone, kind of just says, oh, this is what we do because this guy said so. Well, why should I trust this guy? Who cares what this guy said?
Because they tend to be an expert in their field. So one thing that you mentioned that I kind of want to go back, you were saying like, oh, science is there to disprove things, and if it's believed enough, then it kind of becomes the standard, kind of, correct?
Yeah.
So like going back to what you were saying about Galileo and like, facing the church, well, the difference is that, the church was saying the science is the sun revolves around the earth, and Galileo was saying no, it's the earth that revolves around the sun. But in this case, it's saying no, you shouldn't listen to the church, you should listen to Galileo. So it would be like if the church was saying, hey guys, listen to Galileo, don't listen to us because he's an expert. That's why it's kind of doing the opposite.
I kind of disagree. I think I don't doubt the scientific expertise of the people running the experiments. That's not what I'm debating here. What I'm debating here is that you have these bureaucrats, right? Like, I actually think it's very apropos to the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church at the time, and Catholics can be offended at a different time, but I'm just kind of making the point here that essentially there were scientists working within the Catholic Church, right? And they were kind of doing experiments, running things like that. But then there's the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy has a different agenda.
That's true.
Right. So I don't doubt that there are good scientists over at Pfizer or Moderna or the FDA or whatever. Like, okay, maybe not the FDA, but I don't doubt that there are good scientists in most places that are trying to make the best decisions and are trying to be honest and are not trying to just pull a fast one. But there is a bureaucracy that you need to understand. And just like with Galileo, when he was trying to show that the earth revolved around the sun and not the other way around, so too here nowadays, we are looking at a situation where individual scientists like Dr. Malone are saying things that are not, conducive to what the church is saying, and the church being the church of secular liberalism. And the church is saying, no, don't look behind the curtain. This is the science, right? So that's kind of the way I see it. And this is a very important document. Now, 55,000 pages. That's like, most long novels aren't that long. No, seriously, what could possibly be written in there? Like, I really want to see that.
Well, like, they probably make it that long so to deter people from reading it.
Okay, so I'm going to say something. I'm going to try to steelman the argument here for a second before we tear it down. I could see the argument being made that if you're running a lot of experiments, you're going to have a lot of documents, and then you have to cite your sources as well. Like, if you've ever seen an academic article, you'll know that like there's generally a list and like a page and a half of sources alone, and that's just like in a normal academic article. Imagine you have 55,000 pages of data. Perhaps it's going to be a lot longer. I still just can't see it being 55,000 pages long. So, I mean, between you and me, I'm kind of hoping someone goes through this stuff and posts a video on YouTube or Rumble or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I'm just double checking now online, and yeah, it's like people are saying it's 55,000 pages on the COVID-19 vaccine.
I mean, I don't see why the FDA needs to wait 75 years to release the document. It will take you 75 years to read 55,000 pages. So I don't see why they're like, by the time we finish reading this thing, will have been too late anyways. So
I know. What they do need is a computer to really, is a computer to like scan the document for like certain keywords and, certain sentences, to find really important information.
Oh, and I'm sure someone's on this, because you don't release a 55,000 page document. I think both sides are going to want to know what's in this thing, because let's face it, if not just my side, and I'm not even anti-vax here. I just don't think I need it. But I kind of want to see who's right. I kind of want to see whether the anti-vax people were right to be more cautious, or whether the pro-vax people were right to tell everyone to get vaccinated. I kind of want to see.
Yeah, no, definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think you're going to see in this document, like, let's be honest. I think what you're going to see in this document, if we see anything at all, it's going to be, you're going to see the methods, right? Like, I don't think the data is going to be compelling one way or another. What I think that's going to be more interesting to look at is the methods and how, what they
Well,
did
there's
to
also
test.
probably gonna be a lot of bio and like vocabulary, lingo, and stuff like that where people are not going to understand. So.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I don't plan on reading this thing. Or if I do, I plan on reading it in very small collections of bites. I don't think I'm gonna probably end up reading this thing, for the fun of it, because it doesn't look fun to read. It's a 55,000 page document. Like,
A fun read. It's like, what am I gonna do for the weekend? Well, I just picked up this great book.
the Pfizer Documents.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that
55,000 pages.
I don't think if I stayed up for 3 days I could finish it. Like, even if I didn't understand a word.
3 days?
55,000 pages.
But that's so little.
That's so little.
Like, no, I don't mean the 55,000 pages. You're saying, oh, I can't even, read it even if I, spend 3 days. 3 days, it should take you 3 years.
3 years. Yeah, no, it would, listen, if I stayed up for 2 weeks in a row and did nothing but read the document and didn't even sleep, I could probably finish it within 2 weeks, 55,000 pages. And that's
Really?
that's assuming you don't take breaks to understand what you're reading. That's assuming that, you don't need to eat, you don't need to sleep, you don't need to go to the restroom. I'm just saying, like, 2 weeks of solid reading. Just reading, not like comprehension, not reflection,
I
not like...
challenge you.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's obviously going to be more time. It could take someone easily like several months, like, realistically, to finish this. If they're doing nothing else but like the bare necessity in reading this. But yeah, no, I want to see what's in this thing, and I'm sick and tired of being told, oh, you don't understand the science. Well, the science is coming out. Let's see what happens, Speaking of the science, let's talk about the new Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Whoa.
By the way, tangential thing. Why do all these leftist activists need these un-American names? I don't understand. No, like, seriously, like, Ketanji, where does that name come from? Like, it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. Like, have you ever met a Korean person before?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you'll know anything about Koreans, and I'm not saying all Koreans are like this, and this is not a bad thing. Koreans that come to the United States, right? What do? They have their Korean names, which is all well and good for them. But then they go, Americans probably won't be able to pronounce my weird Korean name, right? So what do? They have a regular name, the American name that they go by.
John.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they make it similar to the Korean name. Sometimes they don't. It's fine either way.
I mean, I've seen both. I mean, I've seen Koreans with American names, and I've seen Koreans with Korean names.
I think it depends, though. If their work requires them to be at the mercy of others, they might get an American name. But if they're not working for other people and they're independent, they're going to probably go by their Korean name, which I could see the argument for both hand. But the idea that there is such a culture among the Koreans and Asian people broadly, that they have these ideas that you integrate into the culture, right, to some degree, right? You could keep your culture to the side, but when you're dealing with the rest of us, you participate in American culture, you have an American name. I think that's great. Why is it that Black people who were raised in the United States have weird names like Ketanji?
I don't know.
Go by like Rebecca or something. Literally. Like, we have a list of great names in the United States. Go by one of them. Ketanji's not a real name. Anyways, so what happened? So Ketanji... Wait, before we talk about Ketanji, let's talk about Joe Biden. So Joe Biden said, I'm going to get a diversity hire for the Supreme Court, which, okay, fair enough. We've spoken about this before, I think. Have we spoken about Joe Biden's diversity hire?
For the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did, no?
I don't remember, but I think so.
Whether we did or we didn't, that's not really important. We all kind of knew Joe Biden was going to lean into the diversity hire stuff. We all knew this was going to happen. And say what you want about Joe Biden, but he did what he said he was going to do. So he got a diversity hire, all right. And this is who he picked, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson is not on the Supreme Court yet. She is currently being put through the ringer in the Senate, and I don't know. She's being asked some very tough questions, like for example, by Senator Marsha Black. Was it Senator Marsha Blackburn or Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn? Let me see. Senator Marsha Blackburn. So what did she ask? What's the hard-hitting, important question that she asked Ketanji Brown Jackson? Do you know what question she asked Ketanji Brown Jackson?
I don't know. You tell me, Luke.
Okay, so this is the very, very hard-hitting question that Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked during the Supreme Court hearings. Can you tell me what a woman is?
Boom. Mind blown.
Mind blown. Difficult question. Senator Blackburn, you nailed her. You nailed her, right? And so what does Ketanji Brown Jackson say? He says, I can't define that. I'm not a biologist. I don't know. I kind of see where Ketanji Jackson's coming from. I'm beginning to think she's not that smart. I'm beginning to think that maybe she doesn't belong in the Supreme Court. You know, she can't define a woman.
Yeah. Well, I guess she doesn't want to say to. I guess she definitely has an opinion and she just doesn't want to say it. So she's kind of brushing it off, or she honestly is like, oh, well, it's not for me to say.
Well, that kind of both of those answers are interesting because the first one is like it's almost the same problem as the Pfizer as the vaccine people who are like, oh, the science says, so you need to follow the science. Well, I'm not a biologist, so I can't talk about what a woman is. That's a question for biologists to answer. I can't answer what a woman is, right?
Well, if you're going to be a Supreme Court justice, you're going to have to answer it.
Well, it's interesting you pointed that out because the law requires so it's interesting because in the United States, the culture doesn't recognize a woman. As far as many people in the United States are concerned, a woman is a conspiracy theory designed to keep down trans people, right? There is no such thing as a woman, according to many people in the United States. But the American legal system still recognizes woman as a category that exists in the law, a protected class, if you will. One might even say that there were, I don't know, women that have spent decades fighting for the advancement of women's rights in the United States, and all those changes were codified into law.
Whoa!
And so Ketanji Brown Jackson not knowing what a woman is a big problem because she doesn't know how to define what a woman is, and therefore there are a lot of laws that she does not know how to talk about. She doesn't know what a woman is. I mean, Rhodey, what is a woman? What even is a woman?
I don't know. All I know is a birthing person, and that's really it.
I know people who ovulate. There's some great terms, but yeah, birthing person's great. There's people with ovaries and uterus people.
But other than that, I don't know what a woman is.
Yeah, no, so obviously this produced a lot of great memes, of course. It's like, you remember that meme? It's like there was one where it goes as follows: I can defeat you, for no man can defeat him. Well, that doesn't matter because I'm a woman and I am no man. Well, what is a woman? I don't know. I'm not a biologist. And then there's also, of course, the Babylon Bee. They had an article that said that Adam was confused by God's new creature because he's not a biologist. So
that's funny. Actually.
It's very funny. No, there was some great memes, but I think this is almost the same problem as the scientist thing. And this gets me. It's like it's this fake deference to authority that no one can know anything unless a scientist says so. I mean, I don't know. I've been around for 26 years. I don't consider myself an expert at anything, but there were times when I would walk past what I think is a woman, although, you can never be sure these days because apparently I'm not a biologist, so I don't know what a woman is. But I felt something like I felt different than I felt around a man, And there were times when I went up to these quote unquote women, which again, I don't know what they are because I'm not a biologist. And, and I would maybe ask them out for dinner and drinks. And it always seemed to me that I never mistook a woman for a man. Right? I never went up to what I thought was a woman, asked her out for drinks, and it turns out, she was a man. It's so interesting, don't you think?
I find it fascinating.
And by the way, I'm not a biologist. That's the craziest thing.
Wow.
I got like D's in biology. I don't know a damn thing about biology. The only thing I remember about biology is that like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Oh, I avoided biology. I hated it.
Yeah, me too. But apparently, like now, if you want to ask someone out on a date, if you want to be sure you're asking out a woman, you gotta have a PhD, you gotta be a biologist.
You have to first speak to your local biologist before you ask someone out.
Yeah, well, so I can't even keep this. Is so stupid. I can't even. You said I forget what you said though. You said there was another answer that she couldn't say. Like she has like activism, right? She needs to pay deference
either she has an opinion and she doesn't want to necessarily, give an answer because she's either afraid of, pushback or something, or, she's just trying to avoid the question. It's
Right.
just a simple tactic of trying to avoid the question. Oh, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. She just doesn't want to answer it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could, on a more serious note, I could see why she wouldn't want to answer the question because then essentially she's putting herself up to scrutiny with all the wrong people, right?
Exactly.
Although you do have to wonder if Joe Biden wanted a black woman in the Supreme Court seat, and then this woman can't define what a woman is. Well, Joe Biden's not a biologist, so how does he know that this person's a woman and not, a chair or something? Because after all, Joe Biden's not a biologist. So it blows your mind trying to understand these people, right? And that's why, like, I don't take these people too seriously. So before I talk about why I don't take these people seriously, let's talk about this. The whole reason why Ketanji Brown Jackson is in this situation in the first place is because Joe Biden said he wanted a black woman in that Supreme Court seat, right? But now Ketanji Brown Jackson is saying that you need to be a biologist to know what a woman is.
Well, she's like, well, no, because then by her saying that, then she's essentially saying, like, I don't even know if I'm a woman then because then she's questioning Joe Biden's choice.
Joe Biden's definitely not a biologist. Joe Biden's as much of a Hunter Biden is more of an artist than Joe Biden is a biologist. I said it. Those paintings that Hunter Biden does at 2 a.m. while on cocaine, while on the devil's snow, those are more art. And that makes Hunter Biden more of an artist than Joe Biden is a biologist. So how does Joe Biden even get to tell us that he's looking for a black woman to sit on this? It blows my mind. Anyways, speaking of these very, very stupid culture war issues, let's talk about Jeremy's razors.
Woohoo.
Okay, so anyone who knows me knows that I'm a man who likes to wear a beard, but everyone who knows Rhodey knows that Rhodey is a man who enjoys a clean shave every now and then.
I like being clean shaven.
Yeah, well, I always tell you to grow out a beard, but real men wear beards.
I'm not the only one.
I'm not the only one. See, there are other good people in your life who have good taste, and they're telling you to grow a beard. But if you're not going to grow a beard, you now know what product to buy. You now know what product to consume.
Yeah, I do. Jeremy razors.
Jeremy's well, we're not.
We're only 2 payments.
We're not sponsored, so don't buy Jeremy's razors because we're not paid nearly enough to tell you to buy them. So don't buy them. But
don't buy the other ones either.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So basically, let's talk about the history of Jeremy's Razors. So what is Jeremy's Razors? Jeremy's Razors is a razor company founded by the same people who brought us such headlines as Ben Shapiro destroys feminists with facts and logic, and things like I don't know, speechless, controlling words, controlling minds, you know. The Daily Wire, essentially. I'm going to stop beating around the bush. The Daily Wire. I'm not nearly funny enough to be making these jokes. Anyway, so what happens? So the Daily Wire, like every other company out there, besides for us, because we're not famous enough to run ads, because we're not famous and we don't get paid any money. But if you do want to advertise with us, let us know. We are willing to whore ourselves out for money. But on a more serious note, the Daily Wire has their advertisement partners, obviously, and one of those advertisement partners was Harry's Razors. Harry's Razors is a company. They make razors. They make shaving cream. I actually used their products at one point.
Really?
Yeah, you remember when I was shaving my head?
Yes.
Every day? So yeah. I used Harry's Razors and I used Harry's shaving cream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was actually a fine product as far as products go. They were not bad. But yeah, so I used Harry's Razors. And then I remember it was like, I think last year or 2 years ago, there was a Twitter account. This is what happened. So Michael Knowles, ding, we brought up Michael Knowles on the show. So Michael Knowles, he had the audacity to agree with Candace Owens on her show that wasn't affiliated with the Daily Wire at the time. She said that men are not women. And Michael Knowles didn't disagree because, well, men are not women. And so what happens? So this Twitter account with like 2 followers says, at Harry's Razors, how could you, like something along the lines of, how could you advertise with this company? They're saying terribly unacceptable things. And so Harry's Razors decides, oh, we're gonna throw the Daily Wire under the bus. And they said, yeah, you're right. These are unacceptable views. We're not going to advertise with the Daily Wire any longer. And so that's what happened. Now, fast forward. Jeremy Boring, God King at the Daily Wire, and Ben Shapiro, they open up this new razor company called Jeremy's Razors. And, Rhodey, you saw the commercial.
Yeah, no, the commercial was great.
It was really great. You have to see it. But yeah, they've been doing the rounds. They've been going around. They were on Tim Pool. Jeremy Boring was on Tim Pool's show. And apparently they've been selling out with these razors. They got 25,000 subscriptions in 3 days.
That's great.
Yeah, that's like last minute. Like how many people switch over their razors? Like, because a guy makes a commercial.
I don't know. Well, I think it's less the commercial and what they represent.
Well, we're gonna have to get into that. So, first of all, I would like to point out this is, I think, the first company that was ever. No, this wasn't the first company. Wasn't Bugatti founded out of spite for Ferrari?
No, that was Lamborghini.
But still, same idea. Lamborghini was founded.
Lamborghini made tractors, and and Mr. Lamborghini, he was a wealthy man, so he had a Ferrari, and he bought a Ferrari, and his clutch kept breaking, and then he, since he's a engineer and stuff, he had his guys looking at it, and he realized that he had the same clutch as his tractor. And so he went to complain to Enzo Ferrari, and Enzo Ferrari said oh, how dare you, and laughed him out of the room. So out of spite, he decided to make his own car.
And that's why we have Lamborghinis. But it feels like this is the same story with Jeremy's Razors. They have a problem with Harry's Razors, that Harry's Razors threw all these right-wing nut jobs who believe that men are not women under the bus, and so they decided to make a razor company out of spite.
I mean, under Rayleigh, a lot of people start companies because either they couldn't find a job, or because another issue similar to Jeremy Razors, came about. So
yeah, I suppose, yeah. Got any other examples?
Yeah, for example, Honda. Okay, the guy who made Honda didn't get a job at Toyota, and he was really upset, and so he decided to make his own car company. It's like
oh, that's an interesting story.
Yeah, a lot of companies are like that. Elon Musk, he said the reason why he started his own company was because he was having trouble finding a job.
That's interesting. See the things you learn on Right Side of the Compass podcast?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So these are one of the reasons why, when the saying is true, when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah. So they found this company purely out of spite. But I'm kind of interested in what this means for the culture because up until now, and this is a very important thing to point out, up until now, the only part of the economy that was divided was the media we consumed, right? So, for example, left wingers might consume CNN or the Young Turks or MSNBC. Right wingers might consume Fox News or the Daily Wire or the Blaze. But other than that, we all watched the same movies. We all went to the same grocery stores. We all bought the same razors. All the same cars, everything, right? But now we have a product. Now we have a non-media product, a razor blade that is purely for people who don't want left-wing politics. I don't know. It sounds like you're getting your civil war. Maybe
No,
Tim
you're
Pool's
right.
right.
But I also find it that it's a very unfortunate event in terms of the reasoning for it. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Like this, like, look, I'm sure Jerry Razors is great, but like the fact that this is happening, I feel it shouldn't be. Like, we shouldn't have it that Harry's Razors, left the Daily Wire and is being political with their products. Like, we shouldn't be in this situation, and it's unfortunate that we are in this situation.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I will just add the caveat that just because it's unfortunate that we're in this situation doesn't mean I'm not going to help out the side that I agree with.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get Jeremy's razors, but that's because I
you don't
don't
shave.
I don't. I go to the barber once a month and he clips my beard and he does an excellent job, and I know exactly where his politics are and we agree on everything. I have no reason to start, supporting Jeremy Boring now. But, I have the Daily Wire subscription. I already pay for the Daily Wire. I don't like, but yeah, if I was a big shaver, I probably would get Jeremy's razors. And I assume you're probably going to at least look into the company if you're a shaver now.
Well, I don't use razors. I use a electric shaver.
But you wouldn't use like their shaving creams, for example.
No, I mean, I've been I should probably use more like shaving creams and baby powder because it irritates the skin.
You probably
Um,
should. And by the way, just as someone who used to shave his head and might end up going back to doing that, um, a lot of these like shaving creams they also work as like a deodorant. They make you smell nice.
mhm.
So you
All
might
right.
like listen. I'm not going to sell a product online. I'm just saying like like if you are interested in supporting the this kind of product, a product that, as Jeremy Boring said, I believe he said this, well, we don't know you personally, but we don't mean you any specific harm,
Yeah.
which is gets me every time. That's like, yep, I'm sold now. No, but seriously, if I was looking to buy shaving cream, I would seriously consider Jeremy's razors. And I'm not saying this; they don't pay me, of course. They don't know who I am. But what it means, of course, is that you're supporting a company that's not going to do the woke stuff, and it's going to mean actual consequences for Harry's Razors and Gillette and all these other companies. You remember Gillette, like with their woke commercial? You remember that, right?
I didn't see the commercial,
But
but
you remember the controversy surrounding it.
remind me what it was again.
It was like essentially like talking about how men are so toxic. You remember when Gillette it used to be the best a man can get,
Yeah.
and then they started with all the woke stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's the meme where like the guy's walking towards the woman and the other guy like stops him. That's from the Gillette commercial. And the original situation is that he wants to ask the woman out, and that other guy stops him for whatever reason because you're not allowed to ask women out anymore in current year. You're not allowed to ask women out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so because if you ask a woman out, it implies that you want to date her, which is misogynist. Because you only want to date women and you don't want to. Why wouldn't you want to date a man? You're misogynist.
I don't know.
Right. So, right. So I don't know. But I am looking at this kind of like if continues, and I'm not. This is nothing wrong with the Daily Wire. There's nothing wrong with Jeremy's razors. But I will say that if this continues, civil war is inevitable because the whole thing that kept the country together is the economics, right? If we're all going to the same supermarkets, we can't be stabbing each other because the guy who works at the supermarket, he could be Democrat, he could be Republican. The guy who runs the supermarket could be Democrat, Republican, get you food. But let's say we start separating our supermarkets based on politics. Well, all of a sudden, you never see other people. Already, religion is kind of separated by politics. How many right wing? I could tell you just by eyeballing each religion which religion's right wing and which religion's left wing. Orthodox Judaism is more right wing. More liberal strains of Judaism are left wing, and then you've got Catholic, which is more right wing, and then you've got certain Protestant branches which are left wing, and you've got atheism, which is left wing. There are already many dividing things, but the economy is the last thing holding us together. And if the economy falls apart because we're making our own companies, even if they're not designed to be ideological, but they're designed to be a counter to an ideological company, then we're going to be in a very bad position in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, also part of it is that it's all about profit in the end. And I guess in the end, they feel that, by catering to these ideologies, it'll create more business.
Well, there's a theory that's going around that's saying Harry's, what they did was they advertised with the Daily Wire for a while, right? And they got a bunch of subscriptions, right? But what happens at a certain point, your subscriptions kind of peter out, right? And this is everything. You can't have everyone buying forever, right? A lot of these subscription models, they rely on subscriptions happening, but there's a limited amount of people on the planet, and there's a limited amount of people who your product pertains to. So at a certain point, people say, I don't know if I really want to, subscribe anymore, or I'm not bananas about subscribing. So now think you're in Harry's Razors. You want more people to subscribe to the product. You've already got the Daily Wire people, right? You already got the right-wing people, right? But now you want the left-wing people. Now you don't want just like the men who like the based gigachads that listen to the Daily Wire. Now you want the women with the beards that listen to whatever show it is that those people listen to. So what do? You make a big stink on Twitter. That's where those people hang out. You make a big stink on Twitter. You say, we don't like the Daily Wire. We think their views are unacceptable. We're not going to do it. Now all of a sudden, all these left-wing people are like, oh, this razor company went against the Daily Wire. Let's see what they are, and you advertise more. That
would be stupid because then you're throwing your other customers under the bus.
Well, they're kind of hoping that the other people are not going to change their razors just because they went woke. But
why? Because you're saying people are habitual and that they like the product they're using already.
Not only that, but also how many people are going to pay attention to what's going on Twitter.
Oh, maybe.
Right, but this probably blew up in their faces.
I guess we'll find out.
Oh, I completely forgot to point this out. Remember how we spoke about how they're essentially canceling the country of Russia? Because finance companies are taking it in their hands to make sure that there's no business being done in Russia, that you can't use a credit card. Right, so now imagine a Russian credit card company says, we're not going to ban you for having pro-Putin opinions. And then an American credit card company says, you supported Donald Trump. That's cool. You could join us. Now you have different finance.
That's scary just to think about.
Yeah, it is very scary. That's why this is it. This is it. If this keeps on going on, there's no coming back. Because you're never going to get a left-winger to say, I really like Jeremy's razors. Someone who's so purely entrenched in the left wing is going to feel the same way that I feel about Disney, which is that I cannot morally support this company. I'm going to refrain from doing business with them. And if that's how everything begins to go, if that's how the supermarkets go, if that's how the finance companies go, if that's how we start renting each other houses and doing landlord. Imagine if your landlord finds out that you support the wrong opinion.
Yo, that's insane.
Yeah. And they decide, we're not going to rent to this guy anymore. We're going to rent to this person who has the politics I agree with. Oh, and I don't want MAGA hats in my apartment at all, so you have 30 days to leave the premises or else.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's why this is so dangerous. And this is why the I guess the pun I made at the beginning cuts the culture in half, cuts society in half.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
And numerically.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I wish them the best of luck, I suppose. We don't want anyone going out of business. And hey, if you're looking for a good shave, maybe go check out Jeremy's. who knows? If their razors are anything like their movies, which are very good, I can recommend the movies. And I say this as someone who's just watched the movies. I saw Hyperions a couple of weeks ago. Very, very good. They're working with very good quality studios. Then the razors are going to be excellent, and you should go pick some up if you're interested. So yeah. Anyways, so I think that's it.
Yeah. And that's our show. Please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. We can also be found on all your favorite podcast platforms. You can reach out to us by DMing us at the right side of the compass on Instagram or by commenting on the video. We hope you enjoy the show, and we look forward to seeing you next time.